On a Sunday morning in late September, Sister Carolyn Parker walked the 3 blocks from her house to Mount Olive Baptist Church and found the parking lot already overflowing. The sanctuary was packed, wall-to-wall people, some she hadn't seen in 15 years, all whispering like the sanctuary had a secret. And then she saw it, hanging on a hook near the choir loft, robe number 23, perfectly pressed. The collar so sharp it could cut gilt.
That robe has been waiting 22 years. Nobody was supposed to know it still exists.
Sister Carolyn clutched her purse so hard the clasp left a mark. A sob built in her chest, but she pressed her lips together.
Sister, what's going on? Why are all these folks here?
The woman beside her only smiled and patted Carolyn's hand, saying nothing.
Could it be? After all these years? Timothy?
For 22 years, every Saturday, she had ironed that robe and prayed for the choir boy who vanished. Today, for the first time, the robe was out of her closet and on display. The service hadn't started, but Carolyn was already crying, because some prayers take a lifetime to answer, and she was terrified that today might be the day. 22 years earlier, in 2003, Sister Carolyn stood in the church hallway as Pastor Hayes handed her the first stack of 40 purple choir robes.
The church can't pay you, Carolyn, but you'll be serving the Lord.
She carried them home, and that Saturday, she set up her ironing board in the kitchen. She would iron 40 robes every week for free. No one asked her to. She just saw the need.
These robes cover the shoulders of the choir, but they'll carry my prayers into the sanctuary.
Inside the cabinet above her ironing board, she taped a handwritten prayer list. Each name she wrote came with a burden.
Lord, cover them. Let every note they sing be a seed in somebody's thirsty ground.
She ironed each robe until the creases were sharp as the edge of a hymnal, then hung it in the closet. And for 22 years, she never missed a Saturday. In those early years, one young voice cut through the congregation like a blade of light. His name was Timothy Brooks. People said his voice came once in a generation. When he opened his mouth, the sanctuary went still. Carolyn wrote his name on the prayer list with a trembling hand, pressing the pen deeper than the others. She circled it twice, then once more. She didn't know why, only that this boy needed more covering than most. Every Saturday, standing at the ironing board, she would touch his name and whisper the same prayer.
Lord, hold him tight.
She could hear it in the way he sang, a fire, a holy desperation that made heaven lean close. The prayer list became her altar, and Timothy's name was the one she couldn't let go. By 19, Timothy Brooks started missing rehearsals. The streets had a pole the choir loft couldn't match. Addiction wrapped around him like a fog. Arrests followed, 2 jail terms, then silence. By 25, Timothy had vanished. No calls, no letters. He cut everyone off. But Carolyn didn't stop. She wrote letters to his last known shelter, his aunt's house, a halfway home she found in a directory. Most came back, stamped in red, returned to sender, addressee unknown. She stacked them in a shoebox and kept praying. Every Saturday, she still pulled robe 23 from its hanger. She ironed it until the crease could cut bread, hung it back in the closet, and closed the door.
As long as this robe is pressed, there's still a place for you in the loft.
For 11 years, the world forgot Timothy Brooks, but the iron in Carolyn's kitchen never cooled. Years bled into years. The ironing board became an altar, the steam a kind of incense. Her hands grew spotted, her hair silver, but the creases never softened. Some at Mount Olive said she was holding on to a ghost.
They think I am foolish, but they didn't hear his voice. They don't know what the Lord planted in that boy.
She traced his name on the prayer list every week, the ink fading under her touch.
I'll pray until my knees wear out, or the Lord calls me home. Whichever comes first.
Robe number 23 hung in her closet like a promise deferred, its collar so stiff it could stand alone. 20 years of steam, 80,000 strokes of the iron, and not one Saturday missed. At 75, Sister Carolyn's back ached every evening, but she never mentioned it, because to her, ironing was the only language she had to tell heaven she was still waiting. In 2019, Timothy Brooks was in a recovery house in Macon, Georgia, his voice long buried under years of regret.
I've got nothing left, not even a reason to sing.
Then one afternoon, a counselor handed him a thin envelope, Worn at the edges, the handwriting unmistakable. He opened it. The paper smelled like starch. 4 words. Your robe is pressed. It's waiting.
Sister Carolyn. She never stopped.
The letter broke something open. Timothy's legs gave out. He slid to the floor, sobbing.
Lord, if she can wait 20 years, I can fight one more day.
That day, Timothy Brooks decided to get clean for real. He kept the letter folded in his pocket, next to his skin. Every time the craving hit, he'd touch the paper, and the starch smell would remind him someone was still pressing his robe. Across town, Carolyn never knew. She just kept ironing. He started singing again in a storefront church on Auburn Avenue. His voice rough at first, then burnished gold. He recorded under his middle name, and the first single shot to #1 on the gospel charts. Within 2 years, Timothy Brooks was a platinum-selling artist, but not a soul in Mount Olive knew it. He kept Carolyn's letter inside his concert Bible, the creases worn soft from his fingers.
She doesn't stream. She doesn't do social media. She'll never see my face on a billboard.
In that same kitchen, Carolyn pressed the collar of robe 23, humming as she always did. The only music she listened to was from the radio or the old CDs by the sink. Mahalia Jackson, the Winans. She never heard the voice that everyone else in gospel music was talking about. Sometimes Timothy would drive by the church and see the light on in the fellowship hall, but he wasn't ready. So he'd drive on while his robe still hung in her closet, waiting for the day the prayer list would get a check mark. Pastor William Hayes kept in touch with Timothy's elderly aunt over the years. In 2022, she called with a story. Her nephew was that gospel singer on the radio, the one with the voice that broke people's hearts.
Pastor Hayes, it's Timothy. Timothy Brooks.
The pastor gripped the phone. He hadn't heard that voice in 15 years.
Son, I've been praying for this call. Where are you?
Getting back to where I started, sir. And I owe it to Sister Carolyn.
Timothy told him about the letter, the robe, the woman who had never stopped pressing his collar.
Then come home. Come home on the anniversary of her first Saturday. We'll fill that sanctuary with a witness.
Only a handful of elders knew the plan. Carolyn Parker was kept in the dark, her Saturday ritual still unchanged. The robe was pressed, the date was circled, and Mount Olive held its breath. That Sunday, Carolyn ironed robe 23 as she always did, steam curling around her hands.
Something about today feels heavy, like the air before a storm.
She walked the 3 blocks to church and found the parking lot overflowing earlier than ever.
Why are all these folks here? It's not Easter, it's not homecoming.
The sanctuary was already packed, a low murmur rising from the pews. She made her way to the 3rd row, her usual spot, and sat down, clutching her handbag. Then she saw it. The choir was assembled, but not in robes, except one, robe 23, hanging on a hook, perfectly pressed.
Timothy's robe. Why is it here? Who put it out?
The service hadn't started, but the air was electric. No one offered an explanation, only quiet smiles. Carolyn pressed her hands together, the tremor in her fingers visible as she waited.
Church, we have a prodigal son who has come home. A lost voice, found. Timothy Brooks.
The name hit the sanctuary like a thunderclap. Carolyn's breath caught in her throat. From the shadows behind the choir loft, a man stepped forward into the light. Robe number 23. The collar so crisp it could cut silence.
Timothy. Lord, it's really him.
The congregation erupted. Gasps, shouts, a few people leaping to their feet. But Carolyn couldn't move. Her hands shook, her purse slid to the floor, and she stared.
The robe fits the man, but the prayer made the man. Welcome home, son.
Timothy's gaze swept the sanctuary, then locked on the 3rd row, on Sister Carolyn.
22 years of Saturdays, and the answer is standing right there.
Timothy ignored the printed order of service. He stepped off the pulpit and walked straight down the center aisle. The organist hesitated, then gently pressed the keys, and the first chords of His Eye is on the Sparrow rose through the sanctuary.
That hymn, I hummed it every Saturday over the ironing board. He remembers.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come?
His voice, once a generation, filled every corner of the sanctuary, richer, deeper, and carrying the weight of a man who had been dead and was alive again. Carolyn's hands flew to her face. Her shoulders shook, and tears ran freely onto her cream suit. The congregation rose to their feet, some shouting, some weeping, hands stretched toward the ceiling. But Timothy's eyes never left the third row. He walked slowly, each step a note of gratitude, closing the distance that years had carved.
I sing because I am happy. I sing because I am free.
He reached the third row and stood directly in front of her, the song still pouring from his lips, their eyes locked like two people who had been searching for each other across an ocean. Without breaking the song, Timothy lowered himself to his knees on the worn burgundy carpet right beside her pew. His voice softened to a tender whisper, each word a direct offering to the woman who had prayed him back home.
My hands, they ironed your robe, and now they're touching the answer.
Her trembling fingers traced the lines on his face. Years of struggle, now surrendered to the music. He leaned into her palm. The song reached its final, soaring phrase, I know he watches me. And then silence, thick, holy silence. For a breath, the entire sanctuary was absolutely still, as if heaven itself was listening. Then Carolyn's other hand flew to her mouth. A sob broke loose, raw and unashamed. The congregation detonated. Hallelujahs, shouts, a thunder of applause. People who had been sitting were on their feet, crying. But Timothy didn't rise. He stayed on his knees, gripping her hand as if it were the only anchor in a sea of grace. And robe number 23, the collar still sharp enough to cut guilt, draped across the altar of answered prayer. Timothy slowly stood, pulling Carolyn gently to her feet, and wrapped his arms around her so tightly her white hat tilted. She buried her face in his shoulder, the purple robe dampening with her tears, and whispered his name over and over.
Timothy, Timothy, you came home.
The pastor gestured toward the pulpit, but neither of them moved. This moment belonged only to them. The organist started playing softly again, a refrain of Sparrow, as if the music itself understood it wasn't finished. Carolyn pulled back just enough to look at his face. Older, lined, but the same boy she had prayed for. Then she cupped his cheeks.
I knew the Lord would bring you back. I knew it.
Timothy couldn't speak. He just nodded, his own tears running unchecked, and pressed his forehead to hers. The congregation was a wall of sound, clapping, praising, sobbing, hands raised, bodies swaying. Pastor Hayes stood at the front, Bible in hand, waiting with a patient smile, letting the reunion breathe. When they finally unclasped, Pastor Hayes stepped forward and placed the microphone in Timothy's trembling hand. He faced the congregation, his face wet, the robe still perfectly pressed at the collar.
I was dead, dead in my sin. And this woman right here.
Carolyn pressed her hand to her heart, fresh tears spilling.
She kept writing letters. Most came back marked, "Return to sender." But one got through.
From inside his robe, he pulled out a worn envelope, the paper thin and creased.
It said, "Your robe is pressed. It's waiting. That's all." But that letter pulled me out of the grave.
He held it up. The writing faded, but the truth blazing loud. In the third row, Carolyn's shoulders heaved. She knew that handwriting.
Sister Carolyn, you are the reason I am standing here today. But her prayers can't stop with me. I am using every blessing to build something that will last.
He paused, the weight of the moment settling over the sanctuary like a mantle.
There's a building on Chestnut Avenue. It's going to be the Sister Carolyn Parker Music School, free for any child who wants to sing. And inside every locker, there's going to be a prayer list taped to the door, just like the one in her kitchen.
Carolyn's hands flew to her face. She shook her head slowly, as if the honor was too heavy to believe.
Because if one prayer list could save my life, imagine what 1,000 could do for these children.
The congregation erupted anew, shouts of glory and hallelujah crashing like waves. People hugged strangers, some fell to their knees. But Sister Carolyn was still, one hand on the pew, the other pressed to her chest, tears streaming, but no sound. On Chestnut Avenue, the sign was already ordered, Sister Carolyn Parker Music School, and the first rule taped inside every locker was her prayer list.
That's what her faithfulness deserves. A harvest that outlasts us.
Pastor Hayes extended a hand towards Sister Carolyn, and Timothy walked back to her pew to gently guide her to the front. She moved slowly, her legs trembling, the congregation still on their feet, a low murmur of, "God is good," sweeping through the aisles. When she reached the pulpit, the pastor handed her the microphone. She stared at it as if it were a foreign object.
What can I say? I just ironed. That's all I did. I just ironed the robes. That's all.
She tried to say more, but her voice broke. She shook her head, overwhelmed, and started to hand the microphone back.
No, ma'am, you didn't just iron. You prayed, and that prayer became a rope I could climb out of my pit.
Carolyn looked at him, tears spilling, as if seeing her own faithfulness reflected for the first time. Timothy pulled her into another embrace, right there at the pulpit, and the congregation's praise rose like thunder. And for a long moment, the only sound in the sanctuary was the organ playing softly and the quiet sobs of a woman who had waited 22 years to see her prayers standing in the flesh. The service ended, but no one wanted to leave. A line formed down the center aisle as people waited to touch Sister Carolyn's hand. They thanked her for the ironing, for the praying, some who didn't even know her before today.
He's still wearing the robe. After all this time, he came back to it.
She made her way through the crowd, and he stood up from the wall, meeting her in the corner by the old upright piano. Without a word, she reached up and touched the collar of robe 23, her fingers tracing the sharp crease.
You kept it all this time?
No, ma'am, you kept it. I just came to wear it.
A sob escaped her, but this time it was laced with laughter. Timothy put his arm around her shoulders, and together they walked through the side door into the evening light. And for the first Saturday in 22 years, robe 23 was not hanging in her closet. Months later, a crowd gathered on Chestnut Avenue, outside a freshly painted building. Carolyn stood behind a red ribbon, Timothy on one side, Pastor Hayes on the other, golden scissors in her trembling hand.
I don't know if I can cut this. My hands are shaking.
She snipped the ribbon. The sign unveiled, Sister Carolyn Parker Music School. The crowd erupted.
None of this happens without that prayer list in your kitchen. Now it's in every single locker.
Carolyn walked the hall silently, her fingers trailing along the lockers until she stopped at number 23. Inside, a laminated prayer list was taped to the door, exactly like hers. A child's handwriting already marked the first lines. A little girl pointed at the list and said, "I am praying for my friend, just like you did for Mr. Timothy."
It's not just me anymore. Hundreds of prayer lists, hundreds of stories, starting right here.
She pressed her hand to the paper and wept, not for the years lost, but for the harvest that had come. The Saturday after the school opened, 2 young women knocked on Carolyn's kitchen door.
You can help, but the collar must have a prayer in it. Not just a crease, a prayer.
She showed them how to press the robes, slow, deliberate, the iron pausing over each collar as if waiting for an answer. When the first assistant handed her a finished robe, Carolyn held it to the light and shook her head.
This collar won't do. It's not sharp enough. The choir can't sing with a limp collar.
She took the robe back, laid it flat, and re-ironed the collar until the crease became a knife's edge.
These robes have carried prayers for 2 decades. They won't be treated like curtains.
The assistant watched with wide eyes, then nodded firmly. So the kitchen filled with steam and whispered amens. Sister Carolyn never missing a Saturday, even with helpers.
Remember, a robe is a prayer covering. Press it like you are pressing it for the Lord.
After the assistants left, Carolyn opened the cabinet above her ironing board and took out the old prayer list. Her finger ran over Timothy's name, circled so many times the paper had nearly worn through.
22 years. And now look at him.
From a drawer, she took out a small gold star sticker, the kind teachers use, and peeled it from the sheet. She pressed it gently next to his name, right over the old circles, her hand trembling.
Thank you, Lord. You kept him. You kept me.
She closed the cabinet, the star now gleaming next to the name that had anchored her prayers for 2 decades. She returned to the ironing board and picked up the next robe, steam rising, her humming soft and steady. The tune was unmistakable. His eye is on the sparrow. Some prayers take a lifetime to answer, but when they do, they deserve a star. The Sister Carolyn Parker Music School still hums every afternoon with the sound of children learning scales and hymns. Inside every locker, the prayer list is the first rule, a laminated reminder that someone is always praying for you. Timothy still visits on Sundays, still wears robe number 23, and still calls Carolyn Mama Parker. The church sanctuary is never half empty anymore. People come hoping to witness what happens when prayer meets persistence, and every Saturday morning, just as the sun rises, steam still curls in Carolyn's kitchen. She presses the same 40 robes, her hands steady, her mind on the names on the list. The gold star next to Timothy's name catches the light every time she opens the cabinet, a small witness to answered prayer. She never stops humming the old hymn, "Some seeds take 22 years to bloom." But when they do, they fill a whole sanctuary with song, and in a quiet kitchen, an elderly woman with silver hair keeps ironing, keeps praying, keeps trusting that someone is listening. Early Saturday morning, Sister Carolyn Parker stands at the ironing board, the first light touching the collar of a purple robe. Her hands, spotted and steady, guide the iron with the same rhythm they've known for decades. Her lips move in a familiar melody, the old hymn, "His eye is on the sparrow." The prayer list on the cabinet door catches the light, the gold star bright as new. She presses the crease one last time, then lifts the robe to the hanger. The kitchen is a cathedral of ordinary love, and Sister Carolyn, now with silver hair and a back that aches, keeps showing up. Because faith to her is not a grand gesture. It's an iron, a list, and a Saturday. And every crease she presses is a whisper to heaven. I am still here. I am still here. I am still waiting. I am still believing. The steam rises, the hymn fades, and the light in the quiet kitchen lingers, a small, stubborn flame.